AZA programs. Those AZA programs, what I was talking to you before about SSPs and tags, about how animals are managed. Now, if you look at this chart right here, you can see how everybody's time is broken up. And that's not how everybody's time would like to be broken up. But the most important thing is there is the science component. Science is at the bottom of the list, and it's one of the smallest percent of the time that they have to dedicate to it. But I want to show you what the curators at the Bronx Zoo and the other zoos do with that small percentage of their time. So basically, with research both at the zoos and off-site in the field. Somebody at the aquarium has been working with sand tiger sharks for the last several years, tracking sand tiger sharks to see how they move through the water, different levels of the water, how they respond to temperature changes, and also looking for their migration pattern. Adjutant storks. We have the only breeding group of adjutant storks outside of Asia at the Bronx Zoo. And what we did to help rangers who were working with these animals in the wild is we took images, photographic images of storks that were raised at the Bronx throughout all these different periods of their age. So we made like a field guide so that a ranger in the wild could look at a bird and compare the plumage and the feathering on a bird to birds that we knew their age in the Bronx, and they could estimate the age of these animals in the wild. We did population assessment for jaguars. In African wild, this is my colleague Pat Thomas, who's a general curator. He's actually come out here a couple of times to work with, to accompany one of your students who's working with black bears. He's very passionate about wild dogs, and this was an important study. Wild dogs are extremely endangered. They were persecuted for years and years and years. Farmers thought they preyed on their livestock, so what they would do was just indiscriminately put out poison bait and meat to eradicate wild dogs, and it worked. The wild dogs are extremely endangered. So now that we've gotten people to stop doing that, the main threat that faces wild dogs is rabies and distemper from domestic dogs that people keep in their villages. So we've done a rabies vaccine trial at the Bronx Zoo with an oral vaccine. We could see if we could get wild dogs to take this oral rabies vaccine, and they would be immune to the rabies virus, which would be a great help to the wild populations. Maleo conservation in Indonesia. Again, we breed maleos at the Bronx Zoo. They're really a unique bird. They're more like sea turtles than birds. What they do is the females will dig a nest in the sand, lay her eggs, and then cover it up. And she'll cover this mound with sand. And then when the temperature and the conditions are right, the birds will emerge out, much the way sea turtles do. And then they go into the woods. They go into the brush, and no one ever sees them again until they're adults. So we know very little about how maleos grow from hatching through adolescence to adulthood. And we're trying to answer some of those questions with our research at the Bronx and also in the field. And I think I told you in the beginning, the Bronx is 265 acres in the middle of the Bronx, in the middle of this kind of concrete asphalt jungle. And just across the street on Fordham Road is the New York Botanical Garden. That's another 250 acres. So together, we're this huge island of green. And migratory birds will stop over to refuel. They'll come, they'll rest, they'll get water, they'll have something to eat. And while they're doing that, we've done, for the last 3 years, migratory studies to see what kind of birds are moving through the area, and we want to assess what it is that they need out of their stopover environments. Chelonian conservation in Myanmar. Turtles are extremely rare in a lot of Asian countries. They've just been persecuted, mostly for the meat trade. And we're working on building up populations of these endemic Asian turtles in different places. This is a really unique story. These two giant Yangtze sawshell turtles. These are probably the last two turtles of this species in the wild, in the world. They think they found a third individual, but one of them is really ancient. through all kinds of negotiation with the Chinese government, whatever, we have been working with them to get these two animals together and hopefully put them in a situation where they could breed. The female produces a clutch of eggs every year, but they've not been viable. She produces 80 to 100 eggs. If we could just get one successful breeding from these two pair of turtles, we can almost guarantee that the species would exist. If we don't, we can almost guarantee that this species will just move into extinction because, as I said, these are the last individuals that we know of. Assessing the effects of human activity on gelato population. One of our curators at the Bronx, the primate curator, is working with us to see how and if wild gelato populations living in close proximity of farmers that keep their cattle in the same area that the gelatos live, to see if that negatively affects the gelato or not. Using measuring of steroid levels to see what the impact of that interaction is. And the Szechuan taiping behavior. Dave Powell, who's our curator of mammals, has been working with the taiping. They're really a unique animal, live in China. They're kind of a combination between an antelope and a goat. And he's doing work just to see the social behavior of the animals and also to see how they use their environment and how they migrate from one area to another. Live shearing guanacos. People herd wild guanacos together and collect them and shear their wool off. And what's happening is, depending on the time of the season that they do that, it could affect the birthing rates significantly. In other words, if they do it the wrong time of the season, they could cause abortion of fetuses because of stress to the mom. So what we're trying to do is work with local people and pick the ideal time for them to do these kind of roundups so they would not adversely affect the wild population of guanacos in the area. Now, our primate people are working with people in Cameroon because here's the center of the bushmeat trade. And a lot of times when people collect animals for bushmeat, especially primates, they will kill the adults, but they won't kill the youngsters, and the youngsters are orphaned. So sometimes they'll bring them to centers like this where the animals are rehabilitated and hopefully sent back into the wild. So we advise them on husbandry and care techniques. Back to our history, the American bison reintroduction. In the 1900s, 1907, that's when Hornaday first sent bison that were bred in the Bronx Zoo back to the Western Plains. Basically, I mean, not totally, but a lot of the bison that are on Western Plains today came from animals that were sent out there by Hornaday in the early 1900s to repopulate the plains. The government is still very interested in pure bison. What's happened is bison have been interbred with cattle, and a lot of bison have cattle genes in there. There's very few true North American bison. So the herd that we have at the Bronx Zoo is actually fairly pure. And all the genetic tests that we can do on those animals say that they are, but they can't say that there's no cattle genes in those animals whatsoever. So what we're doing now is we're going to try to get back into this business where that we can breed genetically pure bison at the Bronx and return them to the plains in the West, which would be a really nice continuation of that story that started in the early 1900s. What are some of the problems that we're facing? There's about 10,000 zoos in the world, and many are substandard. As I said, there's maybe 200, 220 zoos in the United States that are part of the AZA. The AZA zoos have to be accredited for